So Philip is trying to cope with these economic problems that the Spanish Empire is plagued with. A later Bourbon king, Charles III, would also institute some reforms, and these are some of the greater Bourbon reforms that would really change things for the colonies. Charles III is going to send out Jose de Galvez to really institute these reforms. Galvez is acting as a visitador, or a royal inspector. And so this is an example of the visita, that royal inspection, when an inspector would come out to the colonies. He basically would take over the colony, and he would change or reform the policies of the colony. Okay, he would basically take over the powers of the viceroy during that time. And so Jose de Galvez is going to be responsible for these measures. And so Galvez is going to suggest a number of sweeping reforms during his inspection, which lasts over 5 years. He's going to be there running things in New Spain for several years, okay? And so some of his reforms include increasing investment for mining. Okay, and so he's trying to boost the mining industry so that more silver will be coming back to Spain, right? He's also going to try to create a loyal bureaucracy there in New Spain. Okay, so he is going to be firing and jailing some of the corrupt officials who work for the government there in New Spain. And he's going to be hiring new officials who he feels are going to be more loyal to the Spanish crown. In particular, he's going to be hiring peninsulares, okay, people who were born in the Iberian Peninsula back in Spain, because he feels that they will be more loyal to the Spanish crown. He's also going to support the idea of seizing church resources, because remember, the Catholic Church is very wealthy at this time. They own a lot of properties, and they also bring in a sizable income. And so the Spanish crown is going to try to take or appropriate some of those funds. And Galvez also promotes the idea of expanding and stabilizing the colonial efforts in the northern provinces. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So some of the successes and failures of the early Bourbon reforms. One of the successes would be a more efficient tax collection system. Okay, and so yes, you are going to see an increase in silver production, and so more of that silver is going to end up being exported from New Spain back to the mother country. Okay, and so that's really fulfilling one of the goals of bringing in more revenue for the Spanish crown. You're also going to see a new policy, and this is a new economic policy, kind of moving away from mercantilism, where the Spanish crown is going to allow the colonies, including New Spain, to trade between each other. Okay, they could trade with each other now. Before, they could not trade with each other. They could only trade with Spain directly, with the mother country. But now, you could have colonies like, say, for example, Cuba, trading directly with New Spain in Mexico. Okay, or Peru, and so you could have more trade basically now, because now the colonies could trade with each other, and this is another success because you're going to see more trade. Basically, you're going to see an expansion in trade because of this. New ports are going to be built in Mexico to facilitate this trade, so that more ships could travel to different areas and trade their goods at these new ports. Okay, and so ultimately, this is a success because it's going to increase royal income. Okay, how so? Remember, we were talking about taxes before: the alcabala, the sales tax, the import-export tax. All of these will apply to this new trade that is going on between the colonies, and so that means more income for the Spanish crown, the royal government. Okay. Now, some failures of these early Bourbon reforms would be that the Spanish crown is still dependent on a number of foreign players in their economy. For example, you have foreign merchants, foreign bankers who are making loans to the Spanish government, foreign manufacturers, okay? And so these foreigners are going to be taking some of the resources from the Spanish economy, because they're making money in that economy, and that money is not staying in Spain, it's going back to the mother countries of these foreigners. Okay, so that's one of the problems. Spain is going to try to uproot these foreigners and their influence in the Spanish economy, but ultimately they will be unsuccessful.